welcome back to Building Bucky Station. This is part 2A, and in the last part we built this, and if you watch the pressure pad tutorial you will have put pressure pads and this wall will be one further back. But otherwise, part 1A, the normal one, you will have this, and today we're going to be adding the rest of the wiring, or the rest of the core wiring should I say, which is involved with the track selection. So yeah, let's get started. Now, for a start, we're just going to knock these out, and I'm just going to do a lot of block placing. So where a repeater is, we'll just hit a block out like that. Okay, and then where the repeater isn't, just make a sort of comb shape. Oh, so it's going to look quite a strange shape if you've dug all this out. But now we're going to start filling it with redstone. So just put redstone dusts. So they're square in the gaps, like that. On my texture pack, they're quite, well, I refer to them as redstone pads, as they look like little pads of redstone, but you know what, doesn't matter. So yeah, just put them in like that, and that should be great. And then just put a line of repeaters here, as always on one tick. And before you ask what this is all about, we will finish. Because this is going to deal with the first 3 pistons. Now the first 3 pistons, one will, it's hard to explain, but it will effectively block another piston from firing if it's not meant to. Another piston will get the correct, another set of pistons, the correct set of another set of pistons to fire, and another will actually move the blocks so you can, you know, have a slot to fall through onto your destination track. So if we just continue this, so that's another comb shaped pattern, and then just put the pads of redstone in, and then these. Okay, so piston time, great. These bottom ones, if we just break 2 spaces, this is actually where this right here is where you're going to land, or close to where you're going to land. You're going to go through this tube, so we'll just dig a trench out there. So these are going to be normal pistons. We do not want them to be sticky pistons. They would technically still work as sticky pistons, but they would also break other things. So really do not use sticky pistons. They will break it as well as working, which doesn't make sense, but it's all it does. Just trust, just a little bit of trust. So these sticky pistons we're putting in here are the ones that will move the block. So your rail, when you move along, will come out here. And if you look at where the slot is, okay, the slot's at the very end because we've got this one. So here you're going to see there's obviously a gap. These bottom pistons, I think I might as well explain. There's going to be pistons up here. There's going to be pistons routed there, and they're going to have rails down there, be pushed out. There's going to be glass here, and there's going to be a piston where the sandstone block is, and this piston is going to be powered, but we don't want it to extend. So the only maneuverable thing that will block pistons is actually the extended head of a piston, because you may well know that pistons can't push extended pistons. Can't say piston at all at the moment. But this also is able to retract. So as you can see here, we've actually now got a slot, but here it's blocking the extension of a piston that's going to be up there. Whereas if we used something like obsidian, we couldn't actually move the obsidian when we needed to. So that would cause an obvious problem. So we'll just give these pistons up here sandstone, or whatever your building block is. Make sure you pause the video early on, because there's going to be, all the resources are going to be on the side of the screen. So you just check that out. Make sure you've got all the right gear. Okay, here we go. So that's also going to need one. And now these are the pistons going in. These are going to hold glass. The reason they're going to hold glass is from a mechanics point of view. In Minecraft, glass is actually a transparent block. Now that might sound a bit strange saying that, but when transparent, I mean it's mechanically, if a player was to be stuck in a wall of stone, they'll take damage, but if they were stuck in a wall of glass, they wouldn't, which is quite cool. It gives it quite interesting properties. So there's that. We'll just put all that in, and now we'll just build 2 out here. Just get that along there. And we'll just come back to this later on after we put some redstone on top of it. Okay. So these sandstone blocks are going to be up when that station is not selected. So if we choose, look at the selected station, it's actually quite bad for it being at the end because it can't display much. Okay, if we select this one, you can see this. Just put that. This block is down, so current is not going to be able to pass to this. You may be thinking, why don't we do that for all of them? Well, because if current passes to there and the slot is open, the block or whatever, this block will actually get pushed down and block your path. So you don't want the block to block it. So you've got to have that there. And I'll show you how to wire these up. They've got special timings that we're going to do in a moment. But for now, if we just take this out there. Brilliant. Now is the hardest conceptually part of the wiring. This is quite difficult to understand what's going on, but I'll explain it the best I can. Now, essentially, this works in a 4 wide system. So if you're doing 4 wide, you'll just put it down. If you're doing 5 wide, you'd start and then you do lane 1 in the first style, lane 2 in the second, lane 3 in the third, 4 in the fourth, 5th in the first, 2nd or 6th in the second, and so on. Just looping round how each lane is. And the lanes have quite specific ways they have to be, because they've got to distribute power widthways sometimes and not widthways other times, and to the correct side as well. But you have no clue what I'm talking about, so I'll get it built first before we go into more depth. Right, so what? Just leave that up there for a moment. Here we're going to put in our rails, just like that. So it is now. You don't have to trust me anymore. It is definitely going to be a minecart station. I didn't lie when I made this title. It's definitely a minecart station. Okay, unless of course it was, you know, like a storage system. Build would have to be pretty fancy, if I'm honest. Right, we at the end. Oh, yeah, we are. Okay, and now we just put. Obviously, there's going to be users inside here, so just going to block this off. Okay. Now, it comes to the first stage where I can't just do it for you. You've got to choose where you want your users to enter this track selector from. Now, I'm rather happy on my users entering from this direction. So now extend this out. I technically shouldn't have put that there. Extend this out to extend this out. I'm going to just put some stuff there. And the side you don't want them to enter from, don't want them to enter the track selector from, put it up like this. Just block it all off. Now, I reckon the side that hasn't got the you're not entering the track selector from is going to be smaller, if that makes sense. So this piston here is going to be closer to the side of the station, or the redstone of the station, than this piston. So if you've got to fit something in, it's only going to have a few blocks in it, so make sure you have enough space for everything. So if you need to dig out some part of a mountain, make sure you do that. So next we're just going to pretty this up a little bit. Let's see if I can, just went round there to see if I could, you know what, I'll do it from below actually. That'll be a more sensible thing to do. Just make a little slot in here. And while we're at it, we might as well extend that. Thought this would be easier. Get that bit done. Just break along. There we go. So this is all prettied up now. Excellent. Just to head back along here. It's good to have light in here because we're going to need to find that area as well again. So now that this is in, we're going to have to, well, continue going. So we're going to start at the back of these pistons, and this is going to be another strange pattern, but just bear with. Just build up this pattern like this. So one up, a 2 down, 2 up, starting 2 down on the first one, like that. There we go. So just fill up the first one there with redstone. There we go. And then we're going to put another set of blocks down here, like that. Just put those with redstone. Just 2 up. Now you can leave that block in there, but that's not going to be included in the blocks for the resources that I've stated at the start of the video. And I have to say I lied right there. Those are supposed to be repeaters. My bad. Gonna get something wrong here and now. Here and there. Here and now, here and there. And 2 things wrong. So we're gonna have now repeaters. Now, it's important that they're facing the way you're travelling through the track selector. So I'm starting from here, I'm ending from over there, and that means I'm going in this direction if I'm to travel directly. So we just make sure these repeaters are pointing in the right direction, as always. Now, don't bother with blocks, other than the ones I'm showing you, and then you can just put in some redstone dust, like that. That's where the dust's meant to be. So that should all join up. Excellent. Now for a little bit of weird stuff. 2 up. Okay. Then up 2 again, and then down and put a... pistons, you're irritating. There we go. Put one there. We eventually got there. And the same... Ooh, the same here. Down, up again, up again, up again. And put that in. Now that we've got those 2 heights, we'll just fill in like that, and then we can just fill in this pattern all the way along. Gonna make that one too long. Yep, I did. And then just switch. Make sure you've got it right so that these pistons that are level to the sandstone or building block is above these indented redstone. Otherwise it won't work. It's all very specific. Now if I can get these pistons attached. There we go. So we're having issues. Oh, that was pretty quickly done. I'm just gonna have to jump around everywhere. Not a very mobile sort of guy. There we go, put that there. Put that there. I'm not good at running and jumping. I feel like a horse in some tournament event thing. Okay. And just make sure all of these pistons are holding blocks, and they all have to be sticky pistons. Do make sure they're all sticky pistons. Excellent. And then let's put this in like that. Brilliant. Now for redstone, we're going to want redstone there, there, and there, like this. I make a half checkerboard, and then just fill up the gaps with repeaters. There we go. Now this is the tricky redstone that we're going to have to face in a second. I'll try to simplify it as much as possible, and show you how to work it out for yourself, but just be prepared. Right, just make sure all these, don't try to scrimp on repeaters here on ticks, because these will actually bud the pistons below holding glass, and that is not something you want to do because the whole system will get screwed up. So the hard part of redstone, or the hard part of the redstone. So we're going to start off with just a semi-checkerboard pattern, just repeaters like this, and then in between redstone. That's simple enough. Now we're going to go to the back here. We're going to look at what we've got. So as you can see here, if we were to want to travel to the second slot, for an example, what would have to happen is this rail, the first rail, would have to extend, and no other rail wants to extend, only the first rail, because everywhere else the glass will come down so you don't overshoot the gap, and you hit the glass and fall directly down. So we only want this first rail to go. So that means only having this first repeater activated. So we're going to need to put a block like that, dust there. It's going to build up like that. So we've got this. Now, it means that we want this piston up, because if we have this piston up, it will stop the chain, so it won't go anywhere else, but it will also not go here. So if we were to take up this piston like this, okay, it's up now, and we powered this, as a demonstration, you can see only the first one extends. Now, what does this tell us? Well, it tells us that when this is on, this second one is on, we want that end to be on. So only this output to be on. But if we want to travel to the first station, actually that's probably a bad example, if we want to travel to the third station, and we were to do it again, we would see that the third station is where this one. We can pull this up, so if we power there, that's pulled up. But we will notice that only this one will be stopped. So only this one will not be powered, and all the rest of them, so for example here, this power will still pass on to the next one. And if we were to power this, only the slot isn't activated. So we also want to activate this one. And if I've done that, there we go. So now this time, only the first two get extended. So that basically means that the first and third want to spread its power to the second and fourth respectively, but the second and fourth want to keep their power in only that lane. Now, if you've got that, you're going to be good at Redstone someday. So what we're going to do is we're going to do block up, dust next to it, adjacent, and this dust is on the one that's only to be powered, and the block on the one to spread its power. And you need to make sure it's going in the right direction. So I'm passing through the track selector in this direction, and so the block is on the right hand side, or the earlier slot to the redstone dust. And then two like this, a block there, and some dust. Now that wasn't too bad, and now we just need to do a checker pattern again. So those have, if we were to take the first three without those two, I'll just put in the first and the third have 2 ticks of delay, the second and fourth have 1 tick, so we'll just add first to the second and third, and we can see it works out fine with the equal amount of delay on both of them, and then just fill it in. And now we just continue the pattern across, so block dust, repeater, repeater, block dust, repeater, repeater, block dust, repeater. And we don't have enough space for another repeater, that's fine, the pattern will continue in theory off to the side, and we'll just leave it like that. And then what we're doing, repeater, repeater, block dust, repeater, repeater, block dust, repeater, repeater, block, and leave the gap, and then just checkerboard pattern it. And that is the hardest bit of redstone in this whole station, and surely you should be able to figure it out from that, even if you have to watch the video over a few times. And my explanations are absolutely atrocious. You can at least look at the example from what we've done, and I'll actually demonstrate to you that it works. So as you can see, we've got this third station powered, and current is being split. So you can see this is off, even though I've got shaders on and it doesn't really show off. But you can see that this repeater doesn't have particles and this dust doesn't have particles, but this dust and repeater do have particles. You'll see at the back, these two torches are therefore off, these two pistons are up, and now if I was to power it, only the rails before the slot go, and if I was to change that to any other slot, let's go with this one here, like look at that one, and then if we were to demonstrate like this, you can see far down here, you can see only the rails before the slot have activated, and that's our goal. And that's the end of the main body of the wiring. In the next video, we'll just knit it all together, knit the arrivals together, and we'll build the structure of the actual inside of the station. But other than that, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.